Greetings and welcome to the United States Transhumanist Party Virtual Enlightenment Salon. My name is Gennady Stoliarov II, and I am the chairman of the U.S. Transhumanist Party. Here we hold conversations with some of the world's leading thinkers in longevity, science, technology, philosophy, and politics. Like the philosophers of the Age of Enlightenment, we aim to connect every field of human endeavor and arrive at new insights to achieve longer lives, greater rationality, and the progress of our civilization. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our U.S. Transhumanist Party Virtual Enlightenment Salon of December 19th, 2021. We have a fascinating discussion in store for you today on what we need to do to defeat aging, hopefully within all of our lifetimes. We have an illustrious panel joining us today from the U.S. Transhumanist Party, including our Director of Visual Art, Art Ramon Garcia, our Legislative Director, Jason Geringer, our Director of Longevity Outreach, Ben Ballweg, and joining us in the YouTube chat will be Celeste Castaldo, our Northern California liaison. And our guests today are quite fascinating individuals as well. We have Jason C. Mercurio. Jason C. Mercurio is the founder and CEO of Ageless Partners, which brings together a diverse network of partners with the underlying goal of reversing aging. Ageless Partners LLC is a research company that helps individuals decipher the anti-aging code. They develop solutions to advance anti-aging medical science worldwide. Their goal is to create machine learning and artificial intelligence innovations that help customers analyze complex data sets that focus on reversing aging. And our second guest, Andreas Melhede, is a Danish transhumanist, marketer, biohacker, and writer. He is the communication coordinator for Immortalist magazine, which I highly recommend that everyone read. If you haven't yet read an issue of Immortalist magazine, you are missing out, and you can download their issues for free. He is also the marketing manager for Longevity Wiki. Over the years, Andreas has gained his branding expertise by working with many diverse personal brands and small firms on integral parts of their brand development. During this time, his biggest focus has been on business strategy, product development, marketing, and learning about the latest in longevity and emerging technologies. He has a strong interest in anti-aging research and reverse aging technology. So, welcome to both Jason and Andreas. It is an honor to have you here. And let us start with Jason for your introductory remarks.
Thanks, Gennady. Really appreciate it. And I just want to thank everyone for putting this together, Gennady and Andreas for joining, and just the entire Transhumanist Party overall. We really appreciate everything you guys are doing. I believe in the battle you guys are fighting, and just thanks again for bringing us on to share our thoughts about what we need for everyone. Aging is something that it affects every single human on the planet, so it's definitely an important mission. So really appreciate it. Gonna jump right in to my slides here. So Ageless Partners, as you heard, we basically have several missions as an organization that I'll go into, and so really I'll start out with a little bit about myself. So my background is primarily going to be in computer science, math, and financial engineering, but I'm also very interested and been studying longevity for some time now. And I kind of came to the realization that aging's not inevitable, and there's actually something we could do about it. And it made me realize that there's something important that we need to narrow our focus on that I'll get into. And the thing for me that I kind of saw with my grandparents it was sort of something that everyone goes through. We all have family, friends that we know are alive today and may not be alive tomorrow. And a lot of it comes down to just that time passing and aging being such a big factor. So seeing my grandparents get taken away from me, and just like everyone else has probably on this call has experienced, was really a core motivation for me to realize that there's something that we can do. And 10 years ago, all the scientists, they didn't think we could do it. Everyone thought that aging could not be altered and that there wasn't really much insights. Then in 2013, a paper came out and basically mapped out that there's 9 main drivers of aging, and there's probably a few more. And that same year, we saw Google launch a subsidiary called Calico, and their mission is to defeat death. And from then forward, we're now seeing billions and billions of dollars going in, and really millions of people across the world taking a look and realizing that there's something here, there's something we could do. With this discovery that aging's malleable and actually reversible, kind of surprised a lot of people, including myself. When you hear the top experts in the world, saying these things, you really realize, like, shoot, I need to dig deeper into this and figure out what's going on here. So it's a little bit about me. Let me keep going here into aging. So, it's sort of the core catalyst of all diseases. So you think about someone who's going to get cancer, or someone who's going to get Alzheimer's or diabetes. Young people can get these diseases, but it's much more probable if you're old. It's much more likely. These people are much more susceptible. And we see this fact really exemplified today with the coronavirus and over the past few years, where most young people have a very, very high probability of survival to the point where it's minuscule. But if you get it and you're above 80, you're very concerned. I mean, even if you don't have it, you're concerned across the board. So it's definitely at the intersection of all diseases. The loss of functionality and the increase in chance of frailty are just some of the normal things that happen. And these people, we think that they want to live. They have they should have a right to live. I hear some people say, oh, well, once I get to 90, like, that's it. But, if you talk to someone who's 90, they want to make it to 91. And when, if they make it to 100, which not everyone does, they want to make it to 101. They're not all of a sudden like, oh, okay, I'm done. I've had enough. Now that can be their choice. That can be their option. If they really say, like, this is it, like, I've decided, like, I don't want any more. But, we want to give people that opportunity, that option to say, like, we can live a life with youth indefinitely and be active indefinitely. So let me keep going here. I'm gonna pass it over to Andreas. He's gonna say a few insights on this slide. Go ahead, Andreas.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jason. And I just want to say, first of all, just thank you so much for inviting me and for hosting this event. And yeah, I really appreciate all the work that the U.S. Transhumanist Party is doing. It's so critical for us all. So I just want to say thank you to all of you here. And yeah, so let's go into some animals that are aging differently. So we have some really fascinating species out there. Like, we have, for instance, the naked mole rat that it just doesn't really seem to age. It rarely gets cancer, and it's actually resistant to many types of pain and can survive up to like 18 minutes without any oxygen. And it's quite fascinating when you think about other rats and mice that just lives for such a short while, just compared to a naked mole rat, which can live almost 30 years. And then we have the Greenland shark that has a lot better DNA repair than most animals and us. And they can live for as long as 400 and 500 years. And they might actually even be able to live even longer than that. There are actually some that have been found to live until above 500 years. So it's hard to know whether the maximum lifespan is 500 years or if it's 600 or 700. So it's really fascinating what we actually can learn from a species like that. We have some pretty much immortal species like the immortal Hydra that doesn't really show any signs of deteriorating with age. It's actually mostly made up of stem cells, which just continually just regenerates through duplication or just cloning throughout life. So it kind of just regrows new parts all the time, and it's fascinating to think about because we might even be able to replace our parts in the future and kind of go for a bit of the same thing that they are doing throughout their lives. And we have the immortal jellyfish, which actually every time that they are experiencing immense amounts of stress or physical damage or starvation or any types of great amounts of stress, they actually turn back into a polyp. And then when they get back to a healthy state, they kind of regenerate and they get back into a jellyfish state and just keep on living like nothing has happened. So they can just go back to a healthy state just out of just being a polyp for a while, which is quite fascinating. And they can just repeat this feat of reversing their life cycle just over and over again. So how long can they live? They can just keep going, it seems. And some animals actually even age in reverse throughout life. We have, for instance, the big mouth buffalo fish that where we actually see that older fish, they actually experience age-related improvements rather than declines, which is also fascinating. So, and these are just a few species that are just really fascinating in terms of how they age, and I just wonder how much we can actually learn from the species and what can actually be used for the research in us.
Yeah, definitely good points. And so, the question kind of becomes like, what can we learn from these species? Can we take a look at their genes? Can we take a look at their epigenome and maybe take some close notes? And from there, can we then use that information to alter our own biology and alter our own genetics? There's nothing based on the laws of physics that says we have to age. So, these species, they're, some of them living to be 500 years old. There's nothing that says that humans can't live to be that old. There's nothing at all. So thanks, Andreas. And so, I want to go through the misconceptions about aging a little bit. And, I was kind of just alluding to the first one here, that aging is natural and there's nothing we can do about it. This is all these things are just common things that most people think, but just aren't necessarily true. Aging is about as natural as cancer, as a virus, as anything that really we as a society have portrayed as bad or evil or something that we would never want someone we care about to have. Like, you would never say, oh, you want someone to have cancer. And so that it's natural only in the sense that it's natural, that it's something that we don't want, just like any disease. And there's obviously something we can do about it. Right now, they've mapped out exactly what we could do to slow down our aging. There's so much information coming out. It's over most people's heads. You're getting thousands of papers being published daily. You're seeing discoveries around the world at hundreds, if not thousands, of universities come out every day. So there's a tremendous amount that we can do today to be healthy and to slow down our aging, and in some cases even reversing it. They've proven in the lab, they've proven in rats that they can do it. And the next one, physical deterioration is inevitable. That's another one, just kind of like I'm referring to. It's all about regeneration. I mean, if we can regenerate or replace each part of the body, you'll never actually have to experience that deterioration that you see in someone who's, say, 95. And the next one, the economic value to extending life is actually a huge misconception. People think that if people are living longer, that it's going to be more of a burden our financial system. And to some degree, if we can't slow down aging, and if we can't reverse it, there is going to be a burden. And there is going to be a lot of people who are very old who aren't working. And we kind of already starting to see it. We're seeing this shift in our population where we have a massive amount of people very, very old or old, above 55, baby boomers. There's this transition. So you still have a lot of young people, but you're just going to have much more old people. And those people who are very old, who do take advantage of these technologies, they're going to be alive much longer. They need to be thinking about their financials and many other components. But we're going to show on the next slide, we're going to dig deeper into this a little bit and really dig deeper into like why extending life is actually going to have a major economic benefit to the US and across the globe. And a lot of it comes down to those people being able to work longer. And the last one with overpopulation, I get this question a lot, and it's one of those things that it's just not true. We have plenty of room on the planet. As societies and countries get healthier, you actually see population growth go down. You see birth rates go down, and it's that's just how it is. Very, very healthy societies. A lot of the people they have kids much later in life, or they don't have kids at all. They have the different tools that we have here in the U.S. In terms of the economic benefit, I'll touch on this a little bit, and then I'll pass it over to you, Andreas. But really, there's two main boxes here that I find very interesting. One of them being the fact that this 38 trillion value here on the right. This guy Andrew J. Scott essentially wrote this paper, and a few other authors, including David Sinclair. He wrote this paper about how if we're able to extend the lifespan of humans by 1 year, he basically makes the case that we would be saving or increasing $38 trillion. So it's kind of this big number, and it's a little bit hard to grasp to some degree, but you can think about if everyone's working 1 year longer, it's going to be a lot of value. It's going to be a lot of economic output. The second box here, the 4 scenarios one, this one is really interesting because you think about like what do people want with slowing down aging or reverse aging, and you got 4 different kind of scenarios here. One of them, the first one, extending life but not improving health. And when people think about age reversal, this is the first thing that comes to their mind. They're thinking, oh, like I'm going to spend more time sick. Like I'm going to spend more time in a wheelchair. I'm going to spend more time with cancer or Alzheimer's. And that's just not what we want. No one wants that. If you're at that point, you're kind of just ready to go anyway. You're not trying to extend you're not trying to extend misery. No one wants that. In the second case, improving health but not life expectancy, people do want this for sure. People want to, they would rather be very, very healthy to 100 and then die rather than have 80 to 100 be not so great years, So, and then we get to delaying aging, and this is where we're at now. This is where, this is what we can do today with all the tools from stem cells to biohacking to just being healthy, exercising, taking the correct drugs and supplements. And then we got reverse aging. You can think of Wolverine here. And this is really what we want to be. We want to be in that category. At that point, you haven't really defeated aging until you have an old person who's 90, who looks like they're 25, who's running on the beach, who's happy, who's active. At that point, the game has changed. And that's really where the direction we want to go. We're going to delay as much as we can, but the fact that each cell has a backup copy of youth in it, right? They've looked at a cell, they've determined there's a backup copy. Now we can read that data and we can reverse every single cell in the body, reverse the age of every single cell. In the lab where that David Sinclair works, they proved this. They show that this is feasible, that we can do this. And now it all comes down to the engineers and the scientists and the businessmen to put this together, productionize and commercialize this technology as soon as possible. Because in our mind, people are dying every second. Every second, people are dying from aging, and so there's not really a huge amount of time to waste. So I'm going to pass it over to Andreas. Thanks.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, that was some great points. And yeah, clearly the economic benefits of slowing aging can be really enormous. And the thing is also, just if you just think about just being able to delay aging by 10 years would equal $380 trillion. And what could that amount lead to for the benefit of all of us? And the thing is that the main reason, according to this paper, why this becomes such a large number is there's this positive feedback loop at play. When we slow aging, older people, they stay healthier for longer, which means that they value the next extension of their healthy lifespan even more. So the proportion of older people in the population that grows, and it actually causes the overall value of life extension as a sum of individual value to increase. And basically, this study just demonstrated that the fact that there's a larger economic benefit of slowing aging than curing the individual diseases of aging itself, which is quite a powerful conclusion based on this study, and that can be used for a lot of work to actually persuade or discuss with regulators in terms of changing these rules and actually making exponential progress for every one of us to create healthier and longer and better lives for us all.
Thanks, Andres. And I think you hit on a good point, and it's one of the main flaws with our current medical system and research endeavors, and really the spending that occurs in the U.S., where they're trying to target individual diseases, where it's like, okay, let's target diabetes. Well, you can target that, but there's an underlying driver to all the diseases. So when you think about where they should be deploying the capital, it really comes down to the synergistic benefits of targeting aging, right? So if you're targeting diabetes, yes, you are going to make some discoveries. You're going to come up with some good drugs. You got metformin, you got berberine. But at the end of the day, like, understanding the drivers of aging and taking capital and allocating them towards that is going to help with cancer and Alzheimer's and diabetes all simultaneously. So you're going to get much more bang for your buck. And I feel like the current leaders of the U.S. haven't quite realized this. They're still kind of fumbling, thinking, oh, do we categorize aging as a disease? Do we not? And, you hear a bunch of, you hear both sides, and you hear kind of a pushback. And that's been something that surprised me as I kind of dig deeper into this space. It's like, there's you always get this pushback from certain groups or people. It's just very surprising to think about. But when it comes down to it, there's a misallocation of capital. And I feel like that this slide and what Andrew Scott kind of realized is that, this is a massive amount of money. This is going to benefit everyone. No one doesn't at this point, no one doesn't age. So everyone has to, the solution is going to help everyone essentially. Let's keep going here. Andreas, I'll let you take on this one.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So as you can see on this picture, there are a lot of billionaires that are eventually just coming into the space, and the progress is also just exponential there. Just new billionaires just joining all the time. And as Jason earlier mentioned, Caligo already in 2013, they started there with Sergey Brin and Larry Page from Google, and then from there we just seen new initiatives and new support from billionaires all the time, and it can just help speed up the progress for all of us. Like we had for instance Richard Hart that raised 27 million for Sense Research Foundation back in August, and he's personally also a really big longevity supporter. He just sees that even though that he has a lot of money and he has a lot of great businesses and things that are making his life purposeful and great for him, he just still sees that there's just nothing more important than actually being able to really increase our healthy longevity and live for a long time, because when it's over for all of us. So he's really a big supporter of it, and will probably just contribute a lot more in the future. Then we had also Vitalik Buterin, for instance, who's also a big supporter of longevity, and I made several donations to longevity research, and also I made to organizations like Sense Research Foundation and Methuselah with many millions of dollars. And he also recently took part in this Gitcoin funding round on different longevity initiatives and companies and nonprofits, where Lifespan.io, where, for instance, took part, and the organization that I'm part of also, Longevity Wiki, also raised some money through that. And there was just all kinds of longevity movies and documentaries and different research in there where people were just funding through crypto. Was quite fascinating. And Vitalik Buterin, he actually was a big part of facilitating all that and also contributing to these different projects. And then we have also Naveen Jain, who is the company of Viome, which you might know, and they have a quite bold vision of making illness optional. So they started to work on the microbiome, but figured out that there's a lot more to work on. So now they're just trying to personalize the work for each individual to just increase our longevity and live healthier lives as well. And then we had on December the 12th, the CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, he announced the company New Limit that will work on epigenetic reprogramming space to radically extend human health span. And we're just seeing new initiatives just all the time. It's just really recent. And then we also have the initiative that you probably heard about, the Altus Labs with Jeff Bezos and Gary Milner, for instance. There was a few months ago, and Jeff Bezos, he also invested in Unity Biotechnology a couple of years ago, and he seems to be a big supporter of the space, and is probably going to fund a lot more projects in the future as well. And then we also have Mark Zuckerberg as part of his Chan Zuckerberg initiative, together with his wife, their science program. They have a really bold vision as well of actually supporting the science and technology that will make it possible to cure, prevent, or manage all disease by the end of this century, which is a quite bold initiative, I would say. Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts you want to share, Jason?
Yeah, thanks, Andreas. Yeah, I think you bring up a lot of good examples. I mean, really, it just comes down to capital flowing into the system. A lot of the original sort of innovators in the space, they got in years ago, 20, 30 years ago, and they were hoping for age reversal to happen fast, and they hit roadblocks, and a lot of it came down to capital. So they're all excited now. Everyone's excited to see the bigger players get in, to see bigger commercial entities get in as well. Google being one example. I also want to touch on Altos Labs and really these other big firms that are doing cellular reprogramming. That's kind of one of each firm has its own idea of what's going to make the difference. And I think cellular reprogramming that really was proven and innovated upon in David Sinclair's lab at Harvard is just fascinating. They were able to regenerate the optic nerve of a rat, and they've cured blindness to some degree, and it's just phenomenal. And using that same technique to reverse the aging process, the guy's talking about now where they're going to create something that's a consumable, just a pill that you could then take and slowly reverse age back. And it's one of those things that's going to take years, but I feel like everyone wants it to move faster. Everyone within the space was like, well, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to die before then, unfortunately. But I feel like one thing to note too is like the traditional business model. I feel like it needs to be adapted for this problem, because this is such a unique case, such a unique problem, and everyone has it. No one's immune. No one can run away from it. You see it coming. You can see it coming from a mile away. And people who say it's pleasant or something, they're not 85. They're not experiencing it. It's basically death by 1,000 cuts. So, we feel that the traditional business model, it may work for some things, but we may need new models. We may need something that's completely different. We definitely need a Project Warp Speed, the way they were able to accelerate the deployment of a single, vaccine. I feel like that was an example of people coming together to accelerate a technology that everyone would potentially benefit with. And I think that the government, the U.S. government, should have their eye on it. There should be a Project Warp Speed for aging. That's something I just wanted to mention. Let's keep going. This slide really shows on the longevity side here, longevity startup funding. This is a small snapshot of where are these companies at in terms of their development. You can see we do got some that are public. We do have quite a bit of early stage companies in the seed stage in particular. But really, we're seeing more and more every year. We're seeing this massive spike in longevity startups that we really never saw before. I would say between the year 2020 at the start and today, we saw more longevity startups and interest in capital being deployed into longevity than we've ever seen ever as a civilization on the planet. And it's just, it kind of shows that there's this spark of interest. And on some levels, one of the catalysts was the coronavirus. People realized we're going to have to be healthier. Now, when you look at the US population, you're seeing massive obesity. You're seeing a lot of unhealthy people, processed foods, and things that are really destroying our longevity. It was interesting. One of these webinars or conferences that I attended, I saw this slide, and I should have put it on here, but I didn't. But it was showing evolution, and it had Homo sapiens as sort of the latest. But then it had one more, and had Homo obese, and it had this person drinking a Slurpee, very overweight. And it's definitely something that's happened in our society. And I think that people, after seeing so many people be affected by coronavirus, hopefully they're altering their patterns and their behaviors to live longer. And our hope too is after seeing this, people may really be enthused or inspired to make a difference and try to make this our reality, because we live today in a society, in a civilization where one person can do quite a bit. If this was 20 years ago, it would take an entire country or an entire city to really make a difference. But now you're seeing these small companies, building out new technologies that are so advanced. It's really mind bending. In this other picture here, we got different areas of aging. You have those 9 hallmarks, and you're seeing companies try to target each different one. So some are doing senescent cells, some are looking at stem cells, some are looking at epigenetics. You can see the spike on the left, altered intercellular communication. This is an interesting one. Another one would be intracellular, so within the cell. And this is very fascinating. There's a substance called lipofuscin that's within the cell. And if you can clear this substance out, you could potentially massively decrease aging in skin, brain, and muscle, which we all have, and everyone wants to have nice skin. So, it's just a matter of time before bigger companies start to realize that there's actually hundreds, if not thousands, of potential paths that you can go. And each person or each firm has their own idea. They have their own theory on what aging is. I've heard people trying to replace parts of the brain, incrementally cutting open the brain, the head, and replacing parts of that, replacing every part of the body. I've heard people were trying to place specific organs from a top-down approach, like the thymus. A lot of firms are looking at the cellular level, how do we clear out senescent cells, these cells that really just shouldn't be there. And we'll get into some of the natural ways you can do that today as well. Let me keep going here. So AI and open source data, this is a necessary tool for our movement and for what we need to do to actually see age reversal. This is a multi-dimensional problem. It's not it's not really a simple thing. we can't necessarily say there's a single driving factor, but there may be. In 100 years from now, we may look back and we may have the E equals MC squared of aging. I feel like we haven't yet discovered it. I think we will, though. I think there could be one driver there that is a major cause. But right now, there's obviously many factors. There's many potential causes, and we need AI to help us detect patterns that humans really just can't see. And you're seeing it being applied in many fields, AI kind of across the board, whether it's really any industry you could think of is applying AI at this point. But just in the past few years, you're seeing this acceleration, this bigger and bigger investments into AI, and we feel that it's a necessary tool to determine the patterns. And I think it's a lot of it comes down to data, big data. We're seeing this massive explosion where we have more data than we have data scientists. And you just don't have enough people and enough computing power. You might have enough computing power to some degree, but you really don't have the personnel to analyze. You have so much data. It's massive. And biological data is big. You think about how big, if you have DNA data or you're mapping a genome or you're looking at other data sets, it's huge. And the firms that are not using AI and who are kind of letting it go over their heads, they may end up falling behind, and the ones who are may end up being the winners. So let's keep going here. Okay, here we go. I'm going to show this quick video here. Let me see if I can. This is the video about us, about Ageless Partners. It's on our landing page. It'll kind of give you guys a short overview of what we're about, what we believe, a lot of the things I've touched on. Let me see if I can get this to play here. Fortunately, I'm not seeing how it's going to play.
An alternative would be for us to share the link to the video in our chat, and then people can follow the link and watch it as well. But for now...
Can you guys see this okay?
Yes, we can see the YouTube page.
I'll play it from here. That works.
What if everything you knew about aging was wrong? Scientists across the globe have been working hard to discover the magical fountain of youth. Now, we are on the brink of a technological revolution. Advanced AI systems are discovering new drugs at unprecedented speeds. Silicon Valley billionaires are funding health ventures that aim to solve death. Age reversal technology will soon be a reality. Ageless Partners is at the forefront of reverse aging. We are investigating new methods 24/7 to open the door to a new generation of researchers that perceive aging as a reversible biological phenomenon. There are 3 stages to reverse aging. 1. What we can do today with anti-aging supplements. 2. What we'll be able to do soon with advanced gene therapies. 3. And in the not-too-distant future, complete age reversal will be possible. We stand together in this battle with a unified goal. What will you do? Live long and age less. Ageless Partners, deciphering the anti-aging code.
All right. That's it there. Let's keep going. Okay, so you guys have seen the video. That's really a broad overview of what we're about, what we're trying to build. This is a short overview of our core mission. What our mission statement, let's just say. So really, there's 5 different things that I want to touch upon real briefly. Accelerating the movement, the reverse aging movement. This is something that I feel like people don't realize. Like it's as fast as we make it on some levels. Now, you hear predictions about the 2030s or 2040s, about the different technologies that will exist, but there's nothing to say that those technologies can't be invented and commercialized before that. Now, everyone can understand that these are complex things. These engineering endeavors aren't simple, but if we have a coordinated effort and we can get enough people involved, there's nothing to say that, us on the call and people who may even be a bit older can't take advantage of these new tools, especially if you're starting today and you're using the tools of today to slow down your aging. We want to increase the probability of our survival. Because if we don't, everyone on the planet that's alive today, unfortunately, won't be. So that's the first one: democratizing anti-aging knowledge and methods. This is about the fact that there's so much information coming out, and no one can really understand it, and a lot of people won't be able to take advantage of it because they may not have the basic tools or resources to view the information or understand the information. So we want to democratize that. We want to make sure that when these advanced technologies come out, that people who want access can get it. And so that's that one. Attracting more young people into the global movement. I'm very passionate about all these, but especially this one, because I feel like there's so many people out there. Our planet is huge. We're getting more and more people coming online every day now as the internet really spreads across the globe. And you have people in other countries who want to work on projects like this, who want to make a difference. And we want to welcome those people in. We got open doors. We want to bring in the talent and the expertise, and really, of all ages, old, young, anyone. We want to bring them in, and we want to disrupt the traditional educational model. And in this case, and I'll get into this. We're running an internship program, and we're trying to bring people in from other countries into the movement. It's learning based. I'll go into that a little more in one of the later slides. And then we want to develop software tools. I'll show one today that we've been working on. We haven't put a huge amount of effort in, but we're setting the groundwork for bigger things. And our main thing is, how do we empower the individual? Right now the power is with the medical institutions and the doctors, where you go in and it's really sick care. It's not really health care. It's really like you have a problem. Now you want to address that problem. They probably will give you some medications or something. But what we should be doing is trying to prevent that in the first place. And that's what we're about. We're about empowering the individual, giving them the resources and the tools to understand themselves and being able to help their family and friends as well. So, this is our platform. This is early stage, really very, very new. But one feature on it, I just wanted to show something that we can do today. So we have a bunch of compounds that we've studied, not us specifically, but scientists around the world have studied compounds, and they've determined how long of a lifespan increase you can get from certain compounds, say across a bunch of species. They're studying worms, they're studying rats. It's a bit harder to do it in humans because we just don't have the time. So you enter in a compound and you search, and you're able to say, okay, based on all the data, what is the average life expectancy change that I could get? An example here is nicotinamide, 20%. If you put in glucose, you're going to see a negative number, unfortunately. So let's keep going. I wanted to touch on biohacking, and really there's so much to it. There's so much we can do. And Andreas and I have probably spent well over 10,000 hours researching different biohacking tools and techniques, and really studying the science. And one thing that I'll note is there's more about aging and biohacking and all these things that we don't know than we do. We're still kind of at the tip of the iceberg, but we know enough that we can change our actions for the better. We know enough to say that a lot of the things that we thought were true, some of them are, and a lot of the things we thought were true, some of them are not. And you're seeing, like, especially in even just dietary recommendations that have existed for years and years, that people were told A, and in reality, B was the truth. And it's unfortunate because you get a lot of people there's a lot of confusion. So I tried to sum this up in one slide, but these are the main things that you can do today to get quite a bit of bang for your buck. One of them is going to be eating less often. Every single species that has been studied that where you restricted the calories had lived longer. But one of the interesting studies was about when the species actually ate, and in one of them they fed the rats the same amount of food, but they just fed the rats at different times. One of them could eat whenever it wants, and the other one had to eat in a very small window of time. And it was interesting because they had the same amount of food, the same exact food actually, and the one who ate less often lived way longer, had less age-related diseases, was much healthier. And it was just kind of fascinating to see. And it comes back to evolution. We evolved to eat one meal per day or less. We evolved for periods of starvation, of cold, running from tigers. We weren't necessarily from an evolutionary standpoint, we didn't evolve to just sit in front of a computer 5 days, 7 days a week. So the things on here you've probably heard of, most of them: exercise, sauna. I put the graph, this picture here, to show that a lot of these things, there's this region of benefit, and too much is not going to be good. So I'll give the sauna as an example. If you go 4 to 7 days, say 20 minutes each time in the sauna, you're going to get all these longevity benefits. But if you start going 2 hours per day, that's not going to be great for you. And I think everyone can understand that. So same thing with fasting. I mean, if you were, just fasting 24/7, 365 days, that wouldn't be the best. But there's actually quite a bit of evidence now that's came out that shows that all the benefits of fasting. Really, it comes down to autophagy, which is your body consuming parts of itself. And those parts that it's consuming are the parts you don't want. And those parts you don't want are damaging everything else. So it's really a phenomenal discovery. And there's fasting mimicking supplements. So you can take a supplement that's going to mimic the same effects as fasting. And there's a lot of other things that are tied into that. And red light therapy, I kind of see in Trace's window, it looks a little red right now. I wonder if he's doing some. And Trace, you got anything else to add on this? I know there's, I tried to sum it down to one slide, but.
Yeah, like biohacking is such a complex idea, but it basically goes down to this whole thing of trying to optimize one's biology. And the thing is that it comes down to the individual. There are a lot of research that is coming out all the time, but in terms of biohacking, some research is quite initial, and some different approaches there actually isn't as much research on as some would prefer. But the thing is that we have different tools to actually test how well they're working. We have different smart devices. We can do blood tests, and we can even measure our aging clocks by using different epigenetic clocks. So there are actually a lot of ways to actually figure out whether initial research might or might not actually translate to humans or not. But yeah, the thing about biohacking is just that you can dive really deep in there, and there's a lot to learn and to constantly just be aware of. But it is a fascinating field that will definitely be a big part of our future, especially until we do achieve great advances in aging research.
Definitely good points. Thanks, Andreas. And I think you hit on one thing too, like with epigenetic clocks, like we can actually measure if this stuff is working. They've done studies where they measure your aging and they can say, you're 40 or you're 30. So there's a biological age, what your clock says, and then there's your chronological age, which you cannot change. So these things are real. These things exist today, and we should be quantifying it. I mean, if we can't quantify it, really, there's no way to tell if what you're doing is working. So it's definitely tough. And I've talked to a lot of different aging experts, and everyone has their own theory on what exactly aging is, but a lot of them have the same underlying theme. And you think about like Aubrey de Grey as an example. He's going to think primarily there's a few causes of aging. He thinks that it's like a byproduct of metabolism, right? So you metabolize things, you're metabolizing oxygen and food. You're changing the form of that, and there's byproducts that you just can't get away from because of eating, essentially. And his approach is damage repair. So you want to repair damage, and I think it's a good one. I mean, but he's just one example out of thousands where he figured out something, and now he's trying to push that forward into a way that is usable. And you're seeing it really in many people around the world, and that's it gives everyone definitely some hope that hopefully someone very smart is going to come along and find something that we can all use, and that we can all use sooner than later. So also towards the end here, I just wanted to share a little bit about our internship program. Like I mentioned before, we're bringing people in. We want to move this forward, and there's really never enough coordination amongst partners and people, universities, entities. Whether you're the Transhumanist Party, or whether you're Google, whether you're Apple, or whether you're a small startup. When something's discovered, especially when it's related to aging, we want to make sure that we can benefit. And one of the things is, like, in our society with traditional business, people are solving the same problems 50 times. And it's unfortunate, because it's sort of like, if you have 50 companies that all deployed, say, 6 months worth of work to solve the same problem, it's that effort could have been better coordinated. And you're seeing in companies, there may not be a way to get around that. I'm definitely open to suggestions, but we want to change that. We want to have companies share their discoveries kind of in an open source way. And one thing that we launched is an internship program, and we're getting people from Africa, from Portugal, from India to come in a learning-based environment and give them training and give them inspiration to try to make a difference and try to do something with aging to apply their skills and really learn. And this is Daniel. I put this quote here. This is actually the first thing Daniel ever said to me when he reached out. He said, "I help people, I solve problems, and I add value." And you can imagine I obviously brought him into the program. I mean, just that opener was pretty good, and he's been phenomenal. He's out in Nigeria, and it's the internet has just kind of changed the way we do work and we collaborate, including with Zoom and these other tools, of course. But really, it comes down to these people being online, and I think that we got to bring those people in, because they're going to be the ones who make a lot of discoveries, who build out the infrastructure we need. You think about Google when it or any of these big tech companies, it was some kids to some degree. I mean, it was some kids in their college dorm room that came up with something smart, invented something a little bit different, and suddenly you have Google, a massive conglomerate. So we want to expand the system, and the traditional education system is not really working. You go 4 years, maybe another 2 to get a master's, and really that's just to get a foot in the door. A lot of the times those people can't get jobs. We don't care if you have a degree. If you can do the job, if you're smart, if you are motivated, you can learn it, and you can also learn with us. And I hope other companies can adopt this model, because people are going to go and sit in the lecture hall for 4 years and not really know what the professors are even teaching. Sometimes they just have to get those grades, to then get to the next phase, which is usually graduate school. And don't get me wrong, I think there's still a place for the traditional system, but I feel like we need to expand on a different system, and that's what I'm building here. So, and that's pretty much it. We can take any questions you guys have, and just the final quote here, I'll just say, if people are familiar with Star Trek at all, is "Live long and age less." So,
yes, indeed. Well, thank you, Jason. And this quotation, "Live long and age less," dovetails quite well with our virtual Enlightenment Salons. For all those of you long-term viewers, you know exactly what he's referring to. So now we are going to launch into our questions, and we have many already coming in from our viewers about this presentation. I must say, Jason and Andreas, this I think is going to be the definitive presentation about contemporary developments in the anti-aging and longevity field. Whenever people are interested in what is happening now, what are some of the key areas to look out for and monitor, I'm going to refer them to this Virtual Enlightenment Salon recording. So thank you very much for all of the effort you've put into compiling this information and helping our viewers access it in a digestible manner. You've certainly done a lot of research in order to make this happen. Now, we have a question from TJ Wass, who wonders, can we use CRISPR or other genetic modification methods to rejuvenate our bodies to be decades younger now, or how long will it take to achieve the immortality solution that the masses would be able to afford? I would welcome any thoughts on this.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. And really appreciate that. So CRISPR, so there's really a couple forms of genetic engineering. You have CRISPR and then you have gene therapies. And there's a subtle difference between these. So, gene therapies is what we can really do today. These are things that are many companies are commercializing in real time. To give an example, back in 2015, Liz Parish, who's a pioneer in the reverse aging field. She actually got several gene therapies, and she was able to reverse her one form of biological aging through a gene therapy, and really just a pioneer. I mean, got hundreds of injections and took a big risk being patient zero. And so that's really where we're at now, in terms of what we can do today. Even the current vaccine, that's one form of gene therapy. So that's what I would be focusing on for the near term. Now, for CRISPR, we're not quite there yet. It's a complex thing because you're trying to cut out a sliver of DNA. You're trying to and then replace it. I'd rather maybe replace a single gene or several genes with gene therapies. But CRISPR really will be the cutting edge. I mean, that will be the way we can really become completely. You get all your genes edited, you get your entire genome reconstructed. That would be where the direction we want to go. It's hard to say how long will be for that technology. I think it's moving fast. I know George Church is really focusing on it. I would say, we're probably going to see massive commercialization of gene therapies now and over the next 5 years. CRISPR, I think we're still a little ways out. I can't say exactly how long, but at least 5 years before we're seeing widespread commercialization. But probably more like 10 to 15 to really figure out how to use it correctly. One of the issues is that there's going to be things that are correlated. You change one bit, and you don't necessarily know how that's going to affect everything else in the system. So it's a tricky problem that they have. But I have no doubt that they're going to solve it, and hopefully sooner than later.
Yes, indeed. So thank you, Jason, for that answer. And by the way, of course, our longtime U.S. Transhumanist Party viewers are well aware of Liz Parish and her work, given that Liz Parish was our vice presidential candidate for the 2020 U.S. elections. And those of you who are interested in listening to some of her remarks, watch our Virtual Enlightenment Salon with our candidates Charlie Cam and Liz Parish, which aired on September 6th, 2020. It is one of our most viewed Virtual Enlightenment Salons. And also, I would recommend an excerpt from that video where she discusses fighting aging as a major policy priority, quite relevant to the conversation that we have been having today. Now, also, one of our viewers, Nate Boyd, has expressed interest in the internship program that you mentioned. So For
Nice.
someone who is interested to become one of your interns, what steps would they follow?
So you can reach out over email. Just reach out to me and send a resume, send some information about yourself, and really let us know what you want to get out of the internship, what skills you want to learn. It's learning based, so there's a lot of collaboration. We want to know and have it focused on the intern developing their skills. I see another question here. How do I send young people? So really just reach out to me. I'm sure my email is somewhere around. You can look on our website too. You can always research on the website, reach out on the website, and then figuring out what area you want to do. Right now, we offer really 3 tracks. So you got data science, which is primarily focused on building systems and doing engineering, and just really correlated with our computer science program. So that's building out the platform that you saw today, and really just trying to think of even new projects. Like we welcome our interns to be like, what, like I have this idea that I want to build, and I want to coordinate and collaborate with the team to then build that out. So just reach out to me, let me know, and I can definitely push that forward. Other fields too, doesn't have to be necessarily software. It could be just researching aging methods. We have one intern who's we call her an ageless researcher, and also Andreas, we're actually bringing him on board as a coordinator. So he's going to help to coordinate these projects and kind of push them uphill, and we definitely appreciate that as well.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you for that answer, Jason. And now we have an interesting question from Daniel Twett. You mentioned that there are some discussions at the political level about whether or not aging should be declared a disease. And indeed, there are discussions within the longevity community about that and whether that's a necessary precursor to having meaningful amounts of investment into actually trying to reverse and defeat aging. And Daniel Twett wonders, do you have any predictions on which country might be the first to declare aging an officially treatable disease state? We have been working within the US Transhumanist Party on trying to get some jurisdiction somewhere to make that declaration, because we think there would be a domino effect if even one country or one province or one city did that. Do you know of any candidate jurisdictions that would likely be easier to influence in this regard?
And Andreas, you got any thoughts? I got a few thoughts, but I'll let you take this one if you want. Oh, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah. Yes, I just want to say first of all that actually the UK they actually following COVID, and in terms of their new priorities in terms of medical research, they actually put a point on addressing the underlying biology of aging as a priority there. So that is actually already the first government to do so, and that is quite fascinating. So they didn't highlight that it is possible to cure it, but they addressed the fact of actually researching the underlying biology of aging and to discover whether they found that it is treatable or not. So that is very, very fascinating, and it can help highlight help speed up the field so much for all of us. So yeah. And the thing is that if we have a country like the UK that can do it, then we have other countries that can do it as well, because the first is always going to be the most important one, because there are probably some countries that might have thought about it, but they maybe just haven't dared to be the first to actually go there. And so a powerful country like the UK to actually take charge and to go for this point and to work on this is really fascinating. So yeah, Jason.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Andreas. I think I think that it's unfortunate that the US wouldn't be a leader in this area. I would say it's good that the Transhumanist Party kind of realizes that if you could find a small country that you could have some influence and get them to be the first one, I can't say which one to really target, but I think what's happening is that a few like I call them like subfields of aging, whether it's like senescent cells or others are starting to get some acceptance, especially here in the US. So you are seeing that, which is good. Now it's not like the complete concept of aging, but at least you're seeing, okay, like senescent cells, this is a problem. We can deploy capital into solving this. But I think that it's one of those things that our governments are so far behind and very, very slow in many areas. And I think this is definitely one of them.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Jason and Andreas, for your responses. And I do think some other country besides the United States will most likely be the first to declare aging a disease. The US Food and Drug Administration is notoriously stringent and I think behind in its understanding of what a disease is. And to them right now, a disease is some specific condition that is wrong with a person right at this instant. And if it's something that will affect a person many years or decades down the road in terms of symptoms, even though the processes are still ongoing at the cellular and molecular level, the FDA will say, well, this isn't a disease state. It's just this broad phenomenon called aging. And that's unfortunate because I think that kind of thinking may deter scientists from putting resources into preventative approaches that may lead to people experiencing less aging to begin with if they don't believe that those approaches will pass the FDA scrutiny. But if you're correct, Andreas, that a country like the United Kingdom shows some promise in declaring aging a disease, that would be an immense win for the longevity movement, because other countries in the so-called developed world, though I still think it's underdeveloped, will pay attention, and even the US FDA might pay attention to such a declaration from the UK authorities. So now we have an interesting question in our internal chat from Jason Geringer, and this has to do with Dr. Aubrey de Grey, who was mentioned before. And of course, Aubrey has stated that he's interested in research in a variety of areas, including cryonics, including neuroregeneration, for example. And yesterday, I attended a virtual super longevity holiday party where Aubrey made a few remarks. And one of the remarks that he made was, due to these infusions of funding into the longevity industry that you mentioned, he thinks there's now plenty of money to actually address the problems of biological aging. But where he sees the next bottleneck is in the number of qualified researchers who are available to work on some of these approaches, especially because, as you pointed out, there are many approaches being tried, and we want to have enough intelligent, educated, qualified people to be able to do those approaches justice. So Jason is wondering, first of all, is Ageless Partners looking for more researchers along these lines? And second, how do we attract more qualified researchers to the field? Of course, Aubrey is an example of somebody who is an immensely accomplished researcher who has essentially helped build this industry from almost nothing into the burgeoning sector that we see today. How do we get more people like Aubrey de Grey, especially among the up and coming generation?
It's a very, very good question. So I guess first to address the first question. I mean, we do want to bring on researchers, not necessarily in the traditional sense where you're in a lab, but really our researchers are focused on deciphering the anti-aging code, figuring out how it works, writing papers and that sort. But if you do want to become a researcher, we do know different labs and different people working on a lot of projects. So feel free to reach out anytime. But in terms of, bringing more people into the movement, I think it's things like this. I think it's like things like the Transhumanist Party hosting events, and really it's all about increasing the scale. One of the things we competed in a hackathon not too long ago called Long Hack, and it was few hundred people all around the world, and it really opened my eyes to see that there are people just like us who are fighting the same battle, and who are in the movement and doing research. A lot of them at universities, some of them at companies. So it's really about having events like that, trying to scale the level of collaboration, especially across borders and across companies. And that's really what we're trying to bridge that gap for sure. And then it's also changing, like I mentioned about education. I mean, we need more universities realizing like that this should be a focus. This should be more research in the lab and more commercialization, more agreements between university and company partners to commercialize the technology that's being created. So I would say, if you want to do research, just figure out which area and look at the companies that are doing it, because I think that like you were kind of alluding to, there's plenty of opportunity right now. It's just finding that right one for you. Whether it's in a lab or whether it's just online through Zoom, and wherever you can build and build your skills and learn more and make a difference. That's where you want to be. So.
Yes, thank you for that response, Jason. And we have another comment from TJ Wass, who believes that mitochondrial health is the key to curing aging by reinforcing the energy source for the cells as a battery for the building blocks of better genetics. What can you tell us about advances in the field of mitochondrial rejuvenation?
Yeah, it's a tricky problem because mitochondria are very small. So and they even have their own set of DNA, and so that manipulating the mitochondria is a little bit harder than manipulating things, say, on like the intercellular scale. So like between cells, right? That being said, there are a lot of startups. I mean, there's startups who are purely focusing on mitochondria. There's things we can do today to optimize those. As an example, just eating a very good diet. That's going to help your mitochondria. Exercising, fasting, red light therapy. This is something that Andreas and I have looked into, and not everyone necessarily agrees. And it's still sort of like there's still research that's coming out, like how real is this science? But I think it could be real, and I think that just shining this red light on your skin optimizes your mitochondria. So that being said, is it charging the battery? It might be, but there's so many startups right now, and a lot of them do focus on mitochondria. So I think that it's an up and coming field. That's the best way I would describe it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you very much, Jason. That is a great answer, and indeed we will be on the lookout for advances in this field. Now, Luis Arroyo has pointed out in the chat that making higher education free and accessible may help with getting more people into the field. And Daniel Twett points out that teachers and librarians are terribly undervalued by most societies. Is there some problem in the educational pipeline right now that is getting too few people to be aware of this field and the opportunities within it? Because there are certainly many opportunities for talented individuals to not only make contributions, but also to benefit financially. This is a growth industry. So where do you think some of the bottlenecks are today?
Sure. Thanks, Gennady. I think that the system we have is a little bit archaic. It's a little bit outdated. Making it free, I think, someone will end up paying to some degree, for that education. And if suddenly the government is handing a lot of money to these universities, I think that could be okay. But I feel like it should be a different system altogether. Like, I think it's a complex thing with education, but we need the learn by doing. We need people to join organizations and be educated by those organizations while also contributing, because the typical, even when we all went to school, you go in a lecture hall, the professor is getting paid a lot, whether it's a free class or a paid one. That professor's getting paid, and a lot of the time you wouldn't be able to really follow. There would be some issue with what he's saying, and so it's very difficult. Nowadays with Zoom, with digital learning, digital collaboration tools like Khan Academy, and really just YouTube can be a huge help. So I think we need more of that. More companies being like, look, like, let's bring these people on in our system. Whether you're even these big companies, they should have their own departments for education. Google should have thousands of people learning the Google ways and getting a Google degree while also contributing to the endeavors that Google is doing. So I think the high level model, I think, needs to change, and I think we definitely have to ask, if what has worked in the past, and is it going to continue to work in this new world? Because the skills are changing, the people are changing, and the systems are changing. And nowadays, one person can do quite a bit. They can have a computer, they can have all these different tools, especially AI tools, where they're automating certain types of work, and we're going to continue to see the skill of the AI get better and better, faster than a human. So it'll be very hard for those people who are going into, say, a 4-year degree today. I think that those people are going to be running into some issues down the road.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, can I just make a point? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just want to say, first of all, I just want to highlight the fact that formal education in Denmark is free, but that doesn't mean that more people are studying aging or are aware of the science at all here. It's actually not that prevalent in Denmark at all. So formal education just overall doesn't seem to be the biggest bottleneck to me. And the thing that I believe it's more about is actually about the awareness and the knowledge of healthy living overall, because people rarely go from just knowing nothing about the field and knowing nothing about aging and longevity and all that, and just go straight to I want to go for radical longevity, or I want to live forever, or anything along those lines. A lot of people that can get into the field, they'll likely start with actually focusing on health and actually want to learn about that, and then from there they can be integrated into other thoughts, and they can get an interest in actually studying aging and actually helping organizations to go for progresses in that field. So it basically, to me, comes down to really spreading awareness of it actually being possible to really be able to optimize your health in a great way. Because if you actually realize that, then it's just a lot easier for you to actually acknowledge that aging is something that can definitely be changed. And that is something that if we have enough manpower and we have enough capital and we have enough people to just do the work in all kinds of different endeavors, then we can get there. So really focusing on health as a first thing, and really just spreading that awareness that people don't just need to just go for all these medical pharmaceuticals, but they can actually optimize their health. They can optimize their immune systems. They can optimize their mitochondria. They can really do a lot themselves. If people are aware of that, they can actually be more aware of what is to come in terms of aging research. So I believe that health is the first priority, and to really make it a common knowledge that it's possible to really do a lot about your health and really feel a lot better than most people do today, because they just aren't living very healthy lives, unfortunately.
Yes, thank you, Andreas, and thank you, Jason, for responding to this area of inquiry. Now, I will point out, it's possible to have free education today that is not formal degree-based education. For instance, this virtual Enlightenment Salon and all of our virtual Enlightenment Salons are free educational opportunities offered to anyone who wants them without any monetary cost, unless people want to donate. And of course, we welcome donations via the super chats, but also we want this to be accessible to people of limited means. And there are so many online resources that people can harness to self-educate. Now, there's a lot of focus in contemporary societal discourse on formal degree-based programs, and something like a 4-year degree or a graduate degree or a professional degree mostly serves as a signaling mechanism to employers. An employer will look at this degree and say, well, this person seems to have demonstrated some basic competence or basic knowledge of a particular field, so there is reduced risk in hiring that individual. However, that is certainly not the exclusive pathway to knowledge. And as you pointed out, Jason, some of those degree programs use obsolete methodologies and do not harness the power of technology to a sufficient extent. If they did, we may be able to reduce the cost of the formal degree programs as well, especially if remote learning becomes more widespread and more immersive. And the comment from Immortalists magazine that appeared in the chat is quite appropriate for this. Thank you for this. Immortalists magazine supports self-education, and we would welcome anybody to read the articles on the Immortalists magazine website. They're certainly great means toward attaining self-education. So Jason also had some comments, Jason Geringer, in our internal chat about your educational program at Ageless Partners. And Jason pointed out that we have a candidate and platform education group on Facebook for the US Transhumanist Party. And Jason Geringer also runs a social learning group called Wisdom of the Crowd, which is designed to have crowdsourcing for an education curriculum. So Jason Geringer would like to assemble some links from the Ageless Partners educational program and share them within those groups. What can he do to get started in that initiative?
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. Feel free to just reach out. I can point you in the right direction. On our website, we do have a careers section, so you can look there and it'll give you a short overview. And
yeah, I was there already. I'll be getting a hold of you.
Oh, that sounds good.
Sweet.
Yeah, and definitely a lot of good points. I think Janady too. I think you made a lot of good ones. I think that self-learning and teaching yourself and really working with teams on things, I think is critical for today. We need people who can work with other people. That's definitely critical. And I think you alluded to this, like there's certain things in our society that are just very archaic. And archaic in the sense that technology is moving very, very fast, and these other systems not so much. And when I think about those, it's really the government, and then our medical system, and then also third would be the educational system. And I think those three sort of high-level societal organizations haven't been able to quite adapt fast enough to keep up to pace with technology. I know they're doing the best they can, but it's one of those things, and this is why I'm big on the Transhumanist Party, because I feel that our dual party system is really archaic, and we need new people in there, and we need new ideas like the ones we're talking about. And I think that that's really going to make the biggest change for us as a society.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Jason, for those good words. And I think this is a good bridge to an important part of our conversation, and that is, what do you think are some of the highest value actions that the U.S. Transhumanist Party can take to alter the political, cultural, societal landscape in terms of its receptiveness to the anti-aging field, to make sure that more people are behind the research efforts, that they are supportive of the goal of reversing biological aging, and that they don't keep uh, putting up these ridiculous knee-jerk types of objections, like what about overpopulation, or what about boredom, or what about immortal dictators, or as Elon Musk was recently saying, well, wouldn't society become ossified if the same people kept on living longer? And these objections have been the exact same ones since I started in the longevity advocacy field in the early 2000s. And it seems that for most of these kinds of reservations, it takes about a minute to refute each one of them. And yet, there's this large mass of people who still haven't heard the refutations, or who still resort to these kinds of popular excuses for the status quo, in essence. So what can the Transhumanist Party do most effectively to change that situation, and to get people to be as receptive to reversing biological aging as they are today to fighting cancer and heart disease, which are not controversial goals at all in the mainstream?
Yes, very, 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 very good question. And I think you bring up a lot of good examples too. I think I'd say the way to react to some of these objections would be, to first acknowledge to some degree like where they come from. See their point of view, acknowledge it. Like with Elon Musk, it's like, okay, you have some belief. We acknowledge what you think about, specifically like that. If people don't die, then ideas won't never get put to sleep. Like some of these people who are in government who really have such strong job security that they could do nothing for maybe quite a bit of time and not be fired. Really, we need to figure out. The Transhumanist Party should try to figure out, like, how do we let those people, leave their positions to some degree without necessarily dying. So I think it's altering the image of what we're trying to do, acknowledging the other side's point of view, but then also putting in our rebuttal too, and then really emphasizing how it's something for everyone. Everyone everyone has aging, and everyone is going to effectively die from it unless we do something about it. And kind of like how I was mentioning in the presentation, if you address cancer, which we have a lot of funding for, you're only targeting one piece of the puzzle, and really trying to target that underlying driver. I feel like is going to be much more beneficial from a capital allocation standpoint. So I'll try to emphasize some of those points to anyone who's pushing back. It's always hard though. I mean, you have a lot of people who are really set in their ways. I mean, if we try to talk to people who are much older, who we would say, okay, well, you should change the way you think. Unfortunately, they don't want to change, and it's an uphill battle. And I've been pretty surprised on how much pushback some people want to get when we're trying to save lives. But Andreas, you want to add anything onto that there?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So the thing is also just about, also what I mentioned before about just health is a critical aspect of really making people aware of the whole movement and what is possible, because people just aren't very focused on health. They might say that they are, but they aren't doing much. But it's not always their own fault, because the thing is that the media is not really promoting any health. They're promoting their narratives, and they're being sponsored by different big companies and food companies and pharmaceutical companies. That just makes it hard for them to actually dispute these claims that they might come up with. So it is definitely a challenge to go from not really being aware of what is possible for you to really dive deep and really acknowledging that, because if people actually become aware of that you can truly become healthy in a variety of ways, and you can do a lot yourself, then from there they can realize that there are a lot of possibilities from there, that people can actually live long, they can actually prosper, they can have really great lives. And a big objection about really long life also comes from the fact that a lot of people, they aren't living truly fulfilling lives. They're having a hard time going through a lot of stuff. They're having a lot of suffering in their lives, which is terrible, and that just makes it hard for them to imagine living a long life, because why would anyone want to keep on suffering for even more time than they already are? So there are a lot of different things that have to be focused on, and really focusing on great lives and healthy living is a crucial aspect. And also transhumanism as a whole is really about just really achieving great lives for all, and really reducing suffering. And reducing suffering for people is something that not many people can be against, unless people are really having some serious seriously interesting perspectives in life, I gotta say.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are a lot of things to focus on, but really making people aware of what is possible, and really empowering people about the truth, and to not just listen to the media, but really diving deep and focusing on what is possible for us all if we want it, and if we go for it, and if we really just strive for it with all our power. That is definitely key.
I think you hit on a really good point. Like the news media, they're controlling the story. The main news media, CNN, Fox News, these news medias that everyone listens to, they're evaluating, they're deciding what the story is. And you see it time and time again. Before the coronavirus, they were reporting on other things. And I would always see like, oh, they're reporting about war or this country or that. And then the coronavirus came, and then their focus was on that. And you start to realize that like some of it's true, some of it may not be true, and some of it may be also incentivized. You always got to follow the money. Whether it's the news media or the medical industry, you got to figure out who is getting paid and how are they incentivized. And so the news media, they're portraying stories, and I feel like the thing that the Transhumanist Party should do is try to alter that story. We got to come up with our own story, a much better one. You're seeing the main stories that come out, a lot of them are very negative. We got to come out with a more positive future, a more positive framework, and a more positive portrayal of where we are and where we're going to be. So
yes, thank you, Jason and Andreas. These are great suggestions, and I'm going to highlight some questions that our audience members posted in this regard. So Tom Orm was wondering, can you please send a link to a list of refutations of the criticisms that are made of super longevity? And TJ Wass stated that we need a handbook or FAQ to refute common objections about living forever that one might encounter from friends, family, and other people in classroom discussions and online chats. And he wonders if there's an FAQ already that deals with this. I did provide some resources in our YouTube chat. First of all, lifespan.io has a good compilation of answers to common criticism, and the writers at lifespan.io have published quite thoughtful articles over the years dealing with each of these commonly encountered arguments. They're quite well researched. I encourage you to check them out. Also, I encourage everyone to look at an older video series that I developed back in 2008 entitled Eliminating Death. I think this video series has aged well or remained ageless, perhaps during the past 13 years, because a lot of the arguments that are mentioned in that video series are still being made today, and the answers in essence are still the same that I put forward back during the time that I created this video. And it's interesting too to think about how the discourse has changed, because back in 2008 still, life extension was seen as a fairly fringe interest, and there were not that many advocates, there were not that many online resources available. I felt that I had to create some even basic materials for people to be able to address these common knee-jerk types of criticisms. But right now, there are many organizations and many great authors who have written on this. And I would say also the cultural receptiveness is improving. That is, if one speaks to an individual who hasn't really delved into this field, about 50% of the time, that person will be receptive to the possibility of reversing biological aging, living longer in good health, overcoming diseases, overcoming senescence. And in the other 50% of situations, one will still encounter these common objections, but most of the time they're not virulently hostile. They are just interested in addressing some reservations that they've heard or something that might occur to them initially, but I think their minds are open to being changed unless their motivation for criticizing longevity is ideological. I found it more difficult to convince people either on the far right or the far left, but everybody in between seems to be more amenable.
Yeah, I actually just want to mention that at Longevity Wiki, we're actually working on the most extensive FAQ on longevity and aging research out there at all. So we dive into all kinds of objections and yeah, research and yeah, if any of you have any objections that you think that we might have haven't thought about or anything along those lines, we would love to know them, and you can also contribute yourself to it when it comes out. So that's probably coming out in the next week or something like that. So that can definitely be critical to really just rapidly just shoot down these objections on things that people believe is true but actually isn't the case.
Yes,
Definitely.
thank you. Thank you, Andreas. And I would be curious if you could tell us a bit more about the Longevity Wiki project and what people should be looking forward to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so basically, one thing that is quite a big issue in just the aging space in terms of the research and all that is that it's kind of distorted and it's not so much structure in terms of it all. So really to be able to discover the research that is out there in terms of everything longevity and aging related, that's the goal, to really make that accessible to all, to really dive into the website and go deep on the different topics, and that is possible for researchers and also for the common man as well, or women for that matter. And it's quite fascinating because it's focused on really making it open source and making it available to all, so everyone can actually contribute and can be part of the whole thing. So that's something that I've been working on for since beginning of this year, and we officially launched the website here the 15th of December. So there is a lot of things happening there in that space, and if we could really democratize information on aging research and longevity there, it could really be a great resource for people to just discover what is possible for all of us and how the current state of research is. And yeah, so in terms of objections, in terms of the different compounds, in terms of all kinds of different interventions that we can use right now or that we are currently researching. So it's basically to really try to just make people aware of all that is going on in space and to really spread it as much as possible. like happened on Wikipedia initially. So it is kind of the same approach of making it open source and making it available for all to contribute, to really just mass spread the valuable knowledge with as many people as possible, and to really just try to speed up the whole research and the knowledge among everyone.
Excellent. Thank you, Andreas, for providing a preview of what the role of Longevity Wiki will be and what resources it will offer to future visitors. Tom Orm makes a great point. He writes that the Overton window has shifted to making super longevity more acceptable to discuss with the general public, and hopefully resources like the Longevity Wiki, Immortalist Magazine, the educational program that Ageless Partners has established will further shift that Overton window in the coming years. I'm certainly quite hopeful in this regard. Now let us go to questions and comments from the U.S. Transhumanist Party panel. Let's start.
Kennedy, I wanted to say one last thing on that real quick.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to mention too, we also have other sections that we're developing on our website as well. You'll see ageless trends and ageless research. And these are different things and concepts really that we feel are critical to understanding aging as a disease, and also where it's been, where it is now, and where it's going. So, for example, the misconceptions, we'll eventually have an article on there. And if you're interested in like which supplement should I be taking or what biohacking tools are out there, we have a bunch of different articles. And Andreas is actually has contributed to some of that. So thanks for all those. And we plan to expand that knowledge resource under the trend section, under the research section over the next several years. You'll see on there too, under the research section, has like links to exact studies. For example, if you're looking at something like NMN, you're going to see actual links to studies. So another knowledge resource on top of the two that Andreas was alluding to.
Great. Thank you for that information, Jason. And I've posted a link to the Ageless Trends portion of the Ageless Partners website. Please check it out. Now let's go to questions and comments from the U.S. Transhumanist Party panel in the last 12 minutes of our salon today. Let's start with Art Ramon Garcia.
Yes. Are there any super longevity researchers who have studied the HeLa cell lines, which are the immortal cell lines? And, have they studied it? Have they found out there are any differences that make it different from any other type of cellular DNA? Any idea on that?
It's a good question. I know those cells, they've been around for so long. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I know they have a lot of research on it. I can't say whether any longevity researchers are particularly targeting those for their inspiration. Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be a great place to start if you're a super longevity researcher. I also noticed that your logo seems to depict mitochondria. Do you think there's possibly a secret that mitochondria holds in super longevity?
Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. I do. I mean, I think that mitochondria, being the energy producer of the cell, I feel like we're going to discover our sort of a key component to our whole biology. I mean, being the energy producer, it's like that's the solar panel, So I think that mitochondria, they're I know we were talking about some startups before with them, but they're still understudied. There's still more to be discovered, and we may be able to eventually recreate different molecular machines. Eventually, for example, the ribosome or the mitochondria. Someday we're going to be able to actually create new ones, and eventually we'll be able to create better ones. So, just like solar panels go through version 1.0 all the way to version 8.0, we'll eventually be able to recreate different cellular machinery. It's currently out of the scope of what we can do today, but I feel like that'll be coming, and I think that mitochondria may be at the center of it.
Yeah, I've also had that feeling, and I asked Aubrey de Grey a question when he was on the show here, and I got the terminology a bit wrong, but it seems that mitochondria are immortal themselves. Every single person on the planet, every single animal, that same mitochondria is an unbroken chain. So mitochondria are immortal. So, and when I asked Aubrey, he said that their DNA was circular. So, and he said there was a few other reasons why it was difficult to glean more information from them. But I just have a feeling that mitochondria has a secret to give us for longevity.
I agree. I think it's a tricky problem. Like the DNA of the mitochondria are harder to repair because it's so small. It's within there. Versus the DNA of the cell. You got two sets. So it's definitely a tricky problem. But I think you're on the right track. I think it's one potential path of super longevity. Looking at immortal cells, especially you think about someone like Bill Andrews, who I believe probably has been on this show before.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So he's all about telomeres. He's thinking that if we solve that problem, that's one step further to reversing our aging, and he may be right. I think him and Aubrey are have a similar agreement. It's hard to say. I think there's a lot of other factors. There if we cure that piece, there's still going to be others. But really, what we want to see is projects like that move forward faster because at the end of the day we want to see, does that work, and I feel like personally think that there should be more capital going into projects like that where you have an expert or maybe a few that are like, look, like this might be the solution. We should push that forward at light speed and see if it is. So yeah.
All right, excellent. So now let us go to Ben Ballweg.
Sorry, dead air. I was sending a message to Art Ramon. I'll get that to you shortly, Art Ramon. Thanks both of you for being here today. I guess my question was, well, first, Andreas, I kind of wanted to hear how you got into the longevity realm, what drew you here. And then I also wonder, with you guys being, let's say, 10 to 20 years younger than me, even maybe younger than Gennady, like how do you guys, being the youngins, look at this longevity space different than we do? I guess I'd feel like you maybe have a little more hope that you're going to make it to LEV than we do or something like that. But is there any way that you can speak for the whole of your generation on how the potential for LEV looks to you and maybe how it differs from how it looks to us?
Yeah, I can definitely start with the first question of how I got involved in the whole industry. And actually, I guess I've kind of been interested in health throughout a great part of my life. But the thing is that, yeah, I hadn't really just optimized what I could do and really dived really deep. I've maybe read a few things about different foods that can be healthy and can be good to incorporate into your diet, or different beverages. But then I don't know exactly how I discovered these individuals that I'm thinking about exactly, but I discovered the biohacker Ben Greenfield and Dave Asprey somehow, and based on those people, I actually got to I became interested in biohacking, and I wanted to do things about that to live longer and live healthier. But I wasn't really thinking about just how long I wanted to live. I was kind of like, yeah, I want to live in a healthy state, and I want to live for a pretty long time, probably. And then I actually, for some reason, wanted to really bulk up and become really big, like I guess a lot of young men are interested in. But then I discovered the book by David Sinclair, Lifespan, and that was just about a month after starting to bulk. And I'm really glad that I found that book, especially because it was terrible to bulk. I was just eating so much all the time. I was trying to fast at the same time because I'd been intermittent fasting for a couple of years before that, and I just couldn't really fast because just eating all the time. I was just full, and I kind of just went to bed after eating because I ate so much. It was just absolutely terrible. But I thought it was worth it, and I thought it was needed. But then the book Lifespan, I read in there that basically becoming growing fast, like accelerating mTOR, and really focusing on growth and really becoming big and doing it fast is not a great way to live a long time. It makes you able to live a shorter time. And based on that observation, I was just like, okay, well, then this is not worth it at all. So based on that, I just got more immersed in just wanting to live healthier and biohacking and all that. And I guess from there, I just really discovered things about what was possible. I discovered Immortalist magazine, and I discovered more about the longevity space. I read a ton of books and research, and discovered a ton of researchers, and just really got immersed in the whole world. And from there, I just really discovered that why would I want to die if I could just stay healthy? So yeah, it's basically based on lifespan and biohacking that took me there. And in terms of your other question on the younger generation, one issue is that a lot of people my age, they don't really care about living healthy and living a long time, because they just believe that it's not necessary to focus on now. And that makes a bit of sense, because we can get away with more stuff than we can at an older age, but that doesn't mean that we don't experience damage from doing some harmful activities. So it is definitely a problem, and it is something that makes it a bit harder for my generation to really get into the space, because we just don't really see the potential as much as all the generations do. So the biggest gateway to me for the younger generation is to really figure out how biohacking can actually make you live healthier now, and can actually make you feel completely different than if you were just not focusing on your health and all, and doing all kinds of harmful activities all the time, and just drinking alcohol all the time, which a lot of young people are doing, things like that. So yeah, I believe that like biohacking could actually be a really great way for my generation to get into the space and discover that there's a lot more to it than you might realize.
Yeah, very well said, Andreas. Just to expand a little bit on the last question, our generation versus older ones. I think it's a very hard problem that we're trying to solve. I think time is running out for the older people who are, say, 80 plus, and even our people, for us, our parents who are late 60s. We care about them. We even for ourselves. I mean, we're optimists, but we're also realists as well. And we hear people of equal, very smart people who don't think that it's going to happen. And when I look at the speed that it's occurring, there is a glimmer of hope. But at the end of the day, though, we're realistic. Like, we think that the challenge is big, and we think unless we do something now to make things happen faster, then we're not actually going to be able to reap the benefits. And we see predictions, and those predictions may or may not come. You have Ray Kurzweil, who's made a lot of predictions, who a lot of people here have probably heard of. But I think he could be right. I think we all hope he is. You got 3 overlapping revolutions: genomics, AI, nanotechnology. And if we can really bring these 3 fields together and apply each advancement to aging, I think we got a fighting chance for our generation and even the generation above us. But we understand that it's an uphill battle, and we got to move much faster because even though we're a bit younger, or Andres is, I'm much older than everyone here on the call. But no, I'm just kidding. But it's one of those things we have to we really have to narrow our scope and narrow our focus if we want to save people. So that's where we come from.
All right. Well, thank you, Jason, and thank you, Andreas, for all of your time and your contributions to the conversation today. Hopefully, the kind of discourse that we've had at our virtual Enlightenment Salon will help sway some members of the younger generations to join us in the quest to defeat biological aging. And hopefully, everyone on this call who hasn't joined the U.S. Transhumanist Party yet will be able to do so for free on our website. And until next time, next Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time, live long and prosper.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.